What is up, Facebook? I want to make this video today talking about something that I had just recently went through, and I'm not doing this to expose anyone. I want to make this video and maybe someone can relate to this video, or maybe it will help someone. Please excuse my voice. I've been sick lately. But yeah, for those of you that don't know, I have just recently gotten out of a 4-year relationship. The relationship ended horribly, and I don't want to expose my ex. Don't want to do anything like that. But hopefully, this experience that I had will maybe help someone. And that would honestly, because what people don't realize is that stress, anxiety, depression, it can kill you, literally. And, that's why I'm making this video, to basically help anyone that's relating to this problem. So, yeah. So, I'm not going to disclose any names, in the video at all. Like I said, I don't want to expose anyone. So, for those of you that know me really well, know my ex, and you already know her name, you already know pretty much a lot about her. So, but anyway, I had met this girl when I was 16, turning 17, and she at the time had just turned 16. So there was something about this girl that kind of like stuck out, and I fell for her really quick. And basically, to make a long story short, we started going out. And fast forward a couple months while we were going out, a lot of problems, came aboard. And when I say problems, I mean a lot of them were caused by me. I am not going to lie. I was in the wrong for a lot of things. If you're wondering, oh, you cheated, no, I never cheated. But when I was younger, I was diagnosed with anger management, anxiety, and depression. And it's honestly not even an excuse to be doing these things. But it was definitely a tough time in my life. I was diagnosed with that when I was younger. So anyway, I started taking out my anger on my ex. So not just my ex, but just people that I was close with in general. So I had realized at that point, I was like, you know what? This has just got to stop. I can't be doing this to the people that I love and care about the most. I just can't do this because I didn't want to hurt them, and I know that it was hard on them. It was hard on me, and I know it was just as hard on them as well. And I wanted to fix things, especially like not even just so much for the relationship, but also for things, like for me personally, in order for me to have a healthy mindset. So, yeah, I ended up going to this awesome therapist, and they helped me out immensely. I got through a lot of like stuff with them, and they helped me so much. So, I'm not gonna lie, when I had these problems, I would call my ex names, I would just yell at her. However, when I would just yell at her, I did notice that there was always like a reason. Like, it wasn't like, okay, she would call me and I would be like, like I wouldn't be just screaming at her. So I do have to point that out. But I'm not justifying it, because in general, this shit was not okay. And um, I just want to throw that out there. It's not okay. It doesn't justify anything. So after that, things, I guess, were pretty okay for a while. And we were, I don't know how far along into the relationship. We were together for 4 years. But I had noticed that my ex, she was kind of, it was like the roles were turning, kind of. And there was a lot of things that, like, we made like these rules in the relationship, and to a lot of people they're probably going to sound stupid, which at this point, the more I think about it, it was stupid. And a lot of this was built on trust, coming from someone that just has horrible trust issues. um and you have my ex here that was pretty much doing things that, like, I really don't want to disclose like too much information and expose her, but like she had said some things to me that kind of like were triggering to me. And like we had made like these rules that like she couldn't hang out with guys alone, and I couldn't hang out with girls alone. So for a while, like we were doing that. And then once like I started to like, like when I was starting to really trust her, I was kind of like, whatever, just hang out with whoever, like hang out with guys alone, hang out with whoever. Um, but she didn't really take that too well. She didn't like the idea if I would ever hang out with a girl alone. And it got bad. And there was also another rule that we had made up where she couldn't, like do any, like she couldn't smoke weed, she couldn't drink. And the reason for that was because coming from someone who just doesn't do anything at all. And I had witnessed a lot of things when I was younger. I used to go to like hardcore parties, and I seen like a lot of things, and it was pretty traumatic for me. And she just took it lightly. She kind of just took everything as a joke. Like there was a time where she called me up late at night, and she was out with these people, and she had said to me, she was like, oh, guess what I'm on right now. And that right then and there, I was like, you got to pick between me and what you're doing. And she wasn't an addict. Like, I'm sorry for my voice, by the way. I don't remember if I mentioned it earlier in the video, but I'm still sick. But yeah. So anyway, like she just took things like very lightly when it came to that. Like she wasn't an addict. Like I know the way that I'm like saying it, like it seems like, oh yeah, like she did it all the time. No, she didn't. She only did it socially. But it made me very uncomfortable. Um, and like don't get me wrong, I've been around people who drink and like smoke weed at least, and it doesn't make me uncomfortable, but at the same time, um, like it was, I really did care for this girl, and I had seen things happen, and that was pretty much my reason why. And yeah, so a lot of this had to do with like trust. And like this video is already over 8 minutes long, so I'm just gonna like you know get to the point with this. So my ex in the relationship, she thought she could get away with things, and like I couldn't. She thought she could say things and I couldn't. She thought she could do things and I couldn't. And it became very toxic. And the fighting became a cycle. And this cycle literally was just like, like somebody would be like, oh, like I'm sorry, this and that, and it would happen again. And oh, I'm sorry, happen again. And it wasn't healthy. And at that point, like I don't really want to be pointing fingers here. However, like my ex, she has a problem with more or less admitting to the things that she has done wrong. And, like she's the kind of person where she'll say she's sorry, but she really doesn't mean it. And, she also has a problem of just playing the victim. And this girl, it really does suck because I I really put my all into this relationship. I love her so much, and you know, what had happened was, and another problem that she had had, and like this also bothered me because this is something that I dealt with also in my childhood. I don't like it when people, like when you're talking and they start yelling over you, the other person. I don't like that at all. That brings me back to a very hard time in my life. And in general, it's just plain rude. Like it shouldn't matter, whatever. It's just plain rude. But and then she'd be screaming over me, and then that would lead on to me screaming at her, and it was horrible. So, as of I had spoken to her several times. I said, like, look, you know, you're gonna need to fix things. Like, I'm working on myself over here. Like, it takes two people to make a relationship, and it takes two people to break a relationship. And I felt like at one point I was just doing all the work. I was going to therapy, I was trying to seek answers. And, like this girl, she thought she was always right. And her excuse was that, if you were to ask her, like why all of this happened, she would basically say, like she says to people, she says that, I couldn't handle her or whatever. And, like honestly, that's not even the truth because all I would ever say to this girl was that, you have to like fix things on your part. I never said for her to change. Um, so yeah, uh, that's pretty much that. So it became like we're in September now. So in like June or July, I had broken up with her. And what had happened was like regardless of what had happened, I always cared about this girl, and I had said to her, I said, like if you like, work on things and there's an improvement, I don't see why we can't get back together. And I'll admit, like I said a lot of like things at the time that because at one point I was just like, what, I can't do this anymore with her. I was, there was a lot on my plate, and I had said like stupid shit to her. I had said that, like, oh yeah, like just things to like piss her off and be like, oh yeah, like let's have an orgy or something. Like like this one girl who was, teaching me a foreign language. I had said like, oh, like let's have an orgy with her, or oh, she's interested in an orgy with you, because my ex was literally blowing up my phone 24/7 and just not leaving me alone. I said that I had needed my space, and that's ultimately what I had needed. However, at the end of the day, I always made sure that she was okay. If she ever like needed me, like she claims that like she would literally sit here at my house crying. I mean, she never really took the blame for anything. So basically, what had happened was, like I would still talk to her even after we broke up. Like she said, she would say to me all the time, like, "Oh, I love you no matter what. You'll always be my boyfriend, this and that." And I kind of like brushed it off, I guess you can say, because this girl, I didn't want to go back into a relationship. I had said to her, especially because my parents, they had a divorce. Their marriage was horrible. I said to her, I had said to her, I don't want to get married to basically get a divorce. And, like at first she was just like, oh, like, what do you mean? Like, we're nothing like your parents. Like, what happened with them? And I was like, yeah, but, like, this is toxic. And, like, I had blocked this girl off of pretty much everything. The only thing was that, like, her text messages would still come through even though her number was blocked. And something that she was doing was that, she was blocking her, like she was blocking her number and putting it in as a restricted number. Meanwhile, She knows that like there's somebody that I know personally that has a restricted number, and I answer to them. So, it was fucking with my mind a lot. And it was becoming just, it was driving me insane. And, like this was all at the time where we were breaking up. And mind you that, like I've had, like with my college, was stressing me out. Also, like the fact that I was homesick. I was 1,300 miles away from home, and I was alone. And it, like that had, those two things right there are just incredibly hard for someone. Like, yeah, I went to this college by choice. It wasn't like I was forced to, but it was hard. Sacrifices had to be made, and like I don't want to bitch and like whine about it honestly, because like personally, I do love my college. It's a great college, but that doesn't mean I don't have the right to say that it was difficult, all of this, and it stresses me out. So, like around the time that we had broken up, uh, I had started to become sick, and I was developing like some weird symptoms, and my doctors were concerned about it. I had to go for some tests, and like a lot of it, I feel like was due to the amount of stress that I was under. Like I don't want to just blame my ex on that, because no, it was not her fault. I mean, it was a piece of like what I was stressed about. However, I don't want to blame her because there was a lot going on. So, like, and she was going away to school herself. She was staying in the state though. And, of course, it's going to be difficult. College in general, it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're, somewhere close to home or whether you're on the other side of the world. College is difficult, and there's no denying that. So, like this, my ex, like she had left for college and whatnot, and we were still like, she was still like, oh yeah, you're still my boyfriend, this and that. Like, there were even times where I would like the day that she had moved, to go to her dorm upstate. Like I was literally studying, like I was with people or I was just in my class, and I purposely went outside to make sure that she was okay. Like, or even times where like, she said, oh, like I need to talk to you or whatever, or if she was having, I don't know, a breakdown or whatever. If I was in class, I would just step outside to, be like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Are you okay? And it, like I couldn't deny my feelings for this girl. So, basically, fast forward to maybe, yeah, it was like the beginning of this month, I remember. And she was out. And it was around the time of her birthday. And what I wanted to do was pretty much like, just catch up on things, and even just, like I was thinking about at one point going up to her college and surprising her for her birthday, doing something nice, because, like I couldn't deny my feelings for this girl, even though we had broken up, and I ultimately wanted to work on things. Like, yeah, I had broken up with her, but it wasn't an easy thing to do, and she thinks that it was like an easy thing for me to do. So, yeah, basically, to make a long story short, I had called her up, and like she didn't answer me. So like she had said to me like 2 or 3 days prior to this, she had said to me like, oh, I will always love you forever. I'm always gonna be there for you regardless, this and that. So, like with her being away at college, I was worried about her, honestly. Like it does, like I said, it doesn't matter if like you're, like in the same town where you live going to college, or even just across the country or across the world, whatever. It's a transition. So I was calling her and I said to her, then I had texted her. I was like, "Oh, are you over me?" And I'll admit, I was abrupt with this, and I shouldn't have been as abrupt because, like it was just like, the way that it had come out. I didn't mean it in that way. However, it kind of threw me off a little bit. So, like she was like, "Oh no, I'm not over you," and whatever. So I'm like, like, why can't you just answer my phone calls? I just want to catch up, this and that. And she was like, "Oh, I'm out right now," or like I don't know, like what she had said. And then I was like, like just call me. So the whole night had went by, and she didn't call me, and I was like, well, like why can't you just call me, this and that, so my phone had died that night, and what had happened was I turned my phone back on when I had it on the charger, and she had said, like stop being like this. So at that point I was just like, like you said you would answer me, you would at least give me, like a sign that like you were okay or whatever, like I mean, because I my ex had said things to me in the past that were alarming, and like I was worried. Like she wanted basically to go to school, like she wanted to get fucked up at school. So I was worried. Like it just in general. I was worried, like not even the whole thing about getting fucked up, but as somebody who loves her, I was worried. So then she had basically said to me, she was like, "Leave me the fuck alone." And I was just like, I mean, okay, but like why? What, like why? And she basically said to me that she couldn't take any of this anymore, and I was just like, it kind of it this is all where it literally like mentally fucked me over. um my ex was pretty much just like, "Oh, I can't take this abuse anymore, this and that, all you ever do is abuse me." And I couldn't believe what I was hearing at that point, because um, my ex literally won't admit to anything that she has done wrong. Like a lot of things, like I don't want to say like, like the things that she has done wrong, because like I said, I don't want to expose her. Um, but it was hard for me to break up with her, and she had said to me like, "Oh, I never want to fucking speak to you again, leave me alone, this and that, yada yada yada." So she left me wondering with all of these questions in my head as to like who, what, when, where, why, how, whatever. Like I mean, it was literally, I was just like, what the fuck, like what just happened? Like 2 or 3 days ago you were like, "Oh, I love you, you'll always be my boyfriend, my feelings will never change for you, this and that," to now leaving me the fuck alone. Like I mean, it was just weird. So but here's an example of my ex that she likes to basically be the superior one and never admit that she's wrong. So I always had to answer her questions, no matter how serious or ridiculous they were. I always had to answer her questions. And, these questions literally could have been like the stupidest questions ever. Like, she used to ask me, like, all the time, literally, like, a million times a day. She would ask me, "Oh, like, why do you love me? How much do you love me? This and that." And I even said to her, I was like, um, like, why do you keep asking me this, like, 24/7? So, and also I'm gonna throw this out there. There was summer of 2016. I had become friends with someone, and this person was a girl, and like we had become close. And this person was very much, like she had a personality of, I don't know, she liked to call a lot of people babe, and it was just her personality. And there was a story behind, because I had a pet name for her, and there was a story behind this. Um, and like we had just become close because we were able to relate about a lot of things that were going on in both of our lives. And it was pretty cool, like having a friend that was going through like the same thing that I was going through. um but yeah, so my ex, like I didn't keep any secrets from her. I was like, yeah, like even though like at the time we were fighting, I said, yeah, I'm hanging out with this girl, whatever, this and that. So my ex had gotten jealous. And, like I always leave my phone around, like I have nothing to hide, like look through my phone. So she had asked me, she was like, oh, like, have you taken pictures with this girl, this and that? And, at first I was like, no, because, like, I don't know. I mean, like if we did, we did, but it wasn't really important. And I was just like, I really didn't even remember at that point. So and like we would text like, oh hey, good morning, oh, and then like she'd be like, oh babe, or whatever, I miss you. And like, don't get me wrong, if you read those text messages, yeah, you would think like, oh yeah, boyfriend and girlfriend, whatever. But that was just her personality. And I even said to my ex, I was like, literally go message this chick, like I don't have anything to hide. So basically, to make a long story short, yeah, she like seen my phone, and she said to me recently like, oh, like after I seen like like those messages, my trust like was just blown out the window with you. So it was literally one of those things where I was just like, I had nothing to hide. I was just like, literally go ahead, go through my messages. I even had blocked the person for her because she was basically begging me to block this person. And I cut off all communication with them. I blocked them off of all of social media. I deleted their number. I deleted everything. So, yeah, so that was, she had just mentioned that to me recently. And so yeah, back to the whole like recent, like what was going on with her at her school. So I had made several attempts to talk to this girl over the phone. However, like I said before, she just likes to yell over people. Like if you say something that she doesn't like, she will yell over you. And I think she really just does that for me, or just whoever she's in a relationship with. So yeah, um, that was a huge problem, and we needed to have this talk because it was not like she was around the corner anymore, and we could just like talk whenever. She was like, I'm all the way down south, and she's all the way up north for college, and let alone from where we live, her college is about 7 or 8 hour drive. So things pretty much had to be talked about. And like I had said before, like she likes to yell over people. She would ignore my text whenever I would try talking to her, and I get that she needed her time. I needed my time as well, but then something that bothered me was that this girl, she had said to me when I said I needed my space, she had said to me, I have no idea how to give you your space. And I was just like, I mean, it didn't really so much, like, I don't want to say that it didn't bother me because it did, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? In that form of way, whatever, at least it shows that she cares. I mean, yeah, it was unhealthy, but I was always there for her and whatnot. So the fact that she was saying, "Oh, leave me alone. I need my space," and then she would say, I never want to talk to you before," or like just stuff like that, and it was literally just very confusing for me. So I had basically planned a trip to go to her college, and just seek answers, talk in person. And I didn't tell her that I was going up there. Originally, I was supposed to be seeing my cousin up there, up in upstate New York, and she was going to be in the area where my ex's college was. And but things fell through. And when I say things fell through, my cousin, she wasn't able to come in the area that specific day. So what had happened was I get to my ex's college, and like, this is probably gonna sound like really creepy, but honestly, I don't care because this is how it happened. Um, I went to her dorm, and I was just waiting out there, and because I was like, she's probably gonna come out sooner or later, so I waited there a little bit, and I had seen her approaching the dorm, and I called out her name, and she was just mad at me. She was like, "What the fuck are you doing here? This and that." It was just nothing that I didn't expect. I knew that she would be screaming at me. I knew that she would be pissed. I knew that she wouldn't be happy to see me. However, like, these things, like, we had to talk about them. So I felt that at the time, even if she were to kick me off of her campus, that, as fucked up as it sounds, that would have been like closure for me to basically move on and just forget about. Well, I shouldn't say forget about everything, but yeah. So this literally, I get there, and yeah, she's screaming at me, whatever, this and that, and pretty much just, I don't even know, but she was screaming at me, and I kept saying to her, "Look, we got to talk about this. Like, you didn't want to talk to me over the phone. You keep hanging up on me. You ignore my text messages. Like, you know, I need this closure, and I think you need this closure as well." So basically, to make a long story short, it didn't really get anywhere. This whole, like, talk that we were having. So I had said to her before I was leaving, I was like, can you at least walk me out to the front of the campus? It was dark out. I was like, I don't know how to get out of here. So she had, walked me to the front of the campus, and, she was just pissed off at me. Nothing unusual. But, once I had approached the front of the campus, I had, this is going to sound stupid, but I had nowhere to stay. And, like, I know, like, a lot of you guys out there watching this are probably like, wow, that was a really stupid move of you. Like, you didn't have a backup plan, with all of this. And no, I didn't, because I didn't really care at that point, because I needed to get things off my chest. And I thought that in the long run it would help me, honestly. But, like, we approached the front of the campus, and I sat down in front of the campus, and my ex was like, "Oh, like, who's picking you up? Like, your mom or whoever?" And I'm like, "No, my mom's not here." Like, and I didn't want to tell her at first that I had no place to stay, because I knew that it would be pointless to say that, and also it was, quite frankly, none of her business. So, like, then I had eventually told her, I was like, I don't have a place to stay. Like, I was like getting like really upset. I didn't feel good in the first place. I was somewhere where I legit, like, had no idea where I was. I'm not familiar with that part of the state at all whatsoever. So I was scared, to say the least. Then she was saying to me, like, "Oh, if you want, you can stay in, like, some room or whatever. Like, at least you'll have a roof over you." And I had said to her, like, straight up, I was like, I would rather stay in the streets than just have you put me in a room, and I'm not a dog or whatever. But, so that had happened. And then, so she leaves, and I go to, like, it was like a shopping center. And she says, then I realized, rather, that I had to charge my phone. My phone, I was supposed to be leaving the following morning, or later on that day rather, to basically go back home. And I was supposed to take the train, and I was like, I at least got to charge my phone. Simple as that. So I had tried calling and texting her, and eventually she did pick up her phone, and she was with friends. And, I said to her, I was like, look, I got to charge my phone. Um, and then I had said to her, like, I was just like, we need to talk, like, because there was still so much I had to say to her. And, like, she, as usual, was just screaming at me, oh, like, it was fucking stupid for you to just come here in the first place. And, like, I said to her, like, because her friends were there. And then when she was screaming, I heard her friends laughing in the background, and I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, what is so funny about all of this? And, my ex was just like, oh, it's just stupid how you came up here. Like, you wasted your time, you wasted your money, and, like, I was just like, at that point, I was just like, look, let's just talk alone. Like, that's all I want. Even for 5 minutes, like, I just need to charge my phone for 5 minutes. And then she was saying to me that one of her friends had, like, a key to the music department where I could charge my phone. And I didn't want her to leave me at that point because I did not know this campus. I literally was just like, look, can we go up in like your dorm or whatever? Or I don't know, just can you not leave me alone? But she didn't listen to me. And so I head back to her campus. And um, basically, what had happened was when I got to her campus, when I was heading back there, to meet up with her and her friends, I had to sit down because I was just feeling so sick at that point. I was just like, I don't know what's going to happen to me right now. Like, it was scary because I had no idea where the hell I was. I didn't know the campus. It was dark out. My ex literally just didn't care at that point. Um, so I had to sit down for a couple minutes. So she calls me. She's like, "Oh, where are you? This and that." I said the building where I was, and like I had seen her and her friends. So I just like we kind of like approached one another. So her friends had stayed in the back. Like they kind of stayed back at first, and then my ex approaches me. So ultimately what had happened was I was just like, look, let's talk. And just she just starts screaming over me again, like usual. Nothing new with that. And um, so at one point one of her friends had walked towards my ex and I, and she was like, let's go, like she was talking to me. And like, personally, I mean, this problem was between my ex and I. Like, I understand to the, I like, I'm just like, I understand that, like, okay, yeah, like, whatever, like, happened, like, you had to interrupt your plans, but literally, you just had to, like, walk on the campus to open a door. Like, that's literally it. So, this friend, had said to me, she was like, oh, like we didn't intend on, like having this in like, like you interrupting our night, this and that. And I was just like, I looked at her and I was just like, what the hell? Like, who are you to be saying this? So we approached this building where I was gonna charge my phone, and she says to me, like, straight up, she was just like, this is what's gonna happen. You're literally gonna charge your phone and then you're gonna leave. You're not even a student here. So I was kind of like taken back, and I thought maybe my ex would have said something. Um, but I was just like, okay. Like, that's literally, I was like, okay. So I must have had like a nervous smile on my face because sometimes I do get that when I am nervous. And she had said to me like, oh, wipe that smirk off your face or whatever. And I'm just like, so then my ex literally, like, it surprised me, but it didn't at the same time, because my ex hates drama. And it doesn't matter if, like, you're, like, her, somebody who she claims to love, she won't stick up for you. So all my ex said at that point, she was like, was all right, all right, all right, like, cause she knows that, like, I probably would have said something to her, especially if I was in a better frame of mind. I would have, honestly, I would have told her off, because this was between my ex and I. Anyway, we go into the building, and, like, my ex, she knew that, like, her friend was wrong at that point, because, um, like, she had came up to me, and at that point, I didn't even want to talk to her. At that point, I was just like, I can't believe that, like, all of this is going on right now, but I wasn't surprised at the same time. So she had walked up to me while I was charging my phone, and she was just like, and she whispered, she's like, "Oh, you can stay in here, like, as long as you like. There's a bathroom, whatever, this and that." And I, at that point, wasn't even talking to her. I was just like, "Leave me alone." So, yeah, that was pretty much that. And she just left, like, just like that. And she had texted me, and she was like, "Stay as long as you like. Goodbye, Jeremy," this and that. And her friend, when they were leaving, like, she was being snarky. She was literally just like, "Oh, uh, you're welcome." Like, like, and I was like, "Thanks." Like, I mean, it was just like, like, people, I just wish that they would just mind their own business, especially when it comes to this kind of stuff. But whatever. So, then on my phone charges, I was there for a little bit, and I realized at that point, I was like, what the fuck? Like, how do I get out of this campus? I have no idea how to get out of this campus. And I tried calling my ex up and texting her. I said, like, I'm getting, like, really nervous. I'm having an anxiety attack right now. Um, and I literally, it was so bad. Like, it was so bad. I had, like I said before, I had no idea where I was. It was pitch black out. There wasn't even people, like, on campus, like, where I was, where I could just, like, ask, like, "Oh, like, where's the entrance, where's the exit, whatever." So I was literally, it took me a long time to basically navigate my way out of there. And once I did, um, I had a terrible anxiety attack. And it was so bad to the point where I had to call 911 for myself. I was in the hospital for a couple of hours. I wasn't admitted or anything, and they could tell that I wasn't drunk, so they didn't have to do blood work on me. I had talked to, like, a shrink in the hospital, and the hospital was actually really chill and whatnot. Like, they were really cool. Um, and basically, to make a long story short, with that was that, like, these doctors, they were concerned with a lot of things that were going on with me. Like, my doctors in my college, where I go to college, um, they're, like, they're saying that this is very concerning, and with a lot of these symptoms that I've been having, I won't say what these symptoms are, but it was it was definitely something that had I thought was, like, at the time when I was in the hospital, it took me a while to calm down, and but like I said, the nurses, the doctors, whatever, they were great. So I had to catch my train, and I just wasn't feeling good. I was feeling nauseous. I wasn't feeling good at all from this, and I had said to my mom, I was like, "Look, I think it's best if I just take a plane ride home." It was only like an hour or whatever, the plane, and as to the train, which was like 8 or 9 hours, and I just wasn't up for that. I couldn't do that, so I ended up buying a one-way ticket back home. My mom's friend had picked me up from the airport, and um, it was, I was just that I couldn't believe that whole thing that had happened. but at the same time, it didn't surprise me. So, and it doesn't even end there. Like, this video is like gonna be like hella long, honestly. Like, I mean, damn. And I know that it like must look like I am like stoned right now. I'm just like really tired. I haven't really been getting that much sleep due to like a lot of this shit going on. So, yeah, I come home and uh, I really don't like people getting involved in my business. However, my mother was very concerned about me because there was a point where my depression was taking over me and I was just either out all the time or always isolated in my bedroom. And it was it was bad. I mean, I'll admit it was bad. And my mom, I'm not one to keep things from my mom, and my mother and I are very close. For those of you that like don't know that, my mom and I are very close. So she had picked up that something was wrong, and I didn't even have to say anything to her. Um, but yeah, so my mom had texted my ex and was just like asking, like, what's up, like, what is going on, like, I'm not mad at you, I'm just concerned about with my son, he's my whole world, he's my everything, um, and my ex literally like texted me like later on that day or whatever, and she had said to me, she was like, oh, your mom is texting me, she's blaming me. And like at first I was like, my mom would never blame anyone, like she wouldn't blame her for anything. So it kind of like was just like, what the hell are you talking about? And especially after I viewed the text messages, I was just like, yeah, my mom didn't blame her for anything. Literally all my mom was saying was that she was worried for me, and she was concerned, and she just wanted to know, like, straight up what was going on. So, yeah, that was that. And so I believe it was the day, I don't know if it was the day that I had gotten back home or the day after. This is all very recently. This is all like about a couple days ago. So, um, my mom basically had said to my ex that I was very sick. And, like the doctors are very concerned, and I'm not going to disclose like what exactly has been going on with me because I don't want to cause an uproar. But yeah, and my mom was like, like I think like Jeremy went up there for to see you for not only closure, which my mom honestly wasn't wrong. I did want to see my ex because I know that like I am sick, and I don't want to say like I wanted to make things right, but like, because I don't think things would have ever been right. But yeah, I don't know. But so yeah, then my ex had hit me up. She was like, hey, like your mom is like saying like, oh, you're sick right now. Like I'm freaking out. Like what's wrong? Yada yada yada. And I wasn't even really talking to her, but you know, I had texted her or whatever. I was like, hey, I'm gonna need you to call me, you know, uh, like now, basically. And so she called me, and we were talking, and at first things seemed like they were okay. And this is literally where the story is about to pick up, and this is where the story ends forever. And this literally just blows my mind. Like, this out of the whole damn relationship surprised the shit out of me. And it, I mean, I don't know, but so yeah, I had, like when we were talking for a little bit, and I kind of did want to explain to her what was going on with me. And for, like I said to her, I was like, look, I'm always gonna love you, like this and that, regardless of what the situation may or may not be. So she was kind of just like, oh yeah, like I love you too. Like it wasn't really anything like I don't know. There wasn't like it's like she was saying it, but there was no meaning behind it. And I was just like, okay. Uh, but so later on that night, like we talk again before like she went to bed, and she had said things, three things to me that really did bother me. I'm not gonna lie. I am not gonna lie. It bothered me. So she said to me that there were these three guys, like three different situations. Um, like she said that she was going out to like a party, and like she gave this one guy her Snapchat. He had walked her back to her dorm. He gave her his sweater, some bullshit like that. So at first she said that to me. The second thing that she had said to me, which ended up being like a lie or it wasn't the full story that she was telling me at the time, was that this one guy put his arm around her, asked her to fuck, and like she rejected his kiss. I'll save that story for in a little bit. I mean, this video is already like hella long, but I'm gonna get to the moral of this story. And the third thing was that she said that she had wanted to smoke weed with this one guy alone, or like I don't know, or in a group or whatever. I don't fucking know, but it was just like we legit just broke up, and you're saying that you love me, but you're literally like giving guys your number, your Snapchat, your social media, whatever. Um, like so it was pretty confusing to me, and also something that bothered me deeply at this point was that she had said to me was like, "Oh, what would you do if like I hooked up with someone else?" I was like, "What do you expect?" Like I was like, "What do you want me to say to that?" Um, so I was kind of getting feelings at like when she had said that, but I had thought that maybe she was thinking about it, but she didn't pursue it. So when I was actually on campus with her, when I was at her campus, I had asked her, I was like, hey, like, have you hooked up with anyone? Like, have you been doing any things? And she flat out said to me, no. And I, like, yeah, technically we're not together, but if you're saying, like, oh, yeah, I love you, this and that, this just really hurt me. And I really do believe that she's just okay with everything the way that it ended. So, actually, this was only about a couple hours ago. And that's why I'm pretty much making this video, because these feelings are fresh. And I just want to put my feelings out there while they're fresh. So she had said to me, because she was like to me, oh, I lied to you before. I actually did drink like 3 times while I was on campus, this and that. And I was like, why did you lie to me? And she said, oh, because like you were sick. But when I was on her campus, she did not know I was sick. So I'm just like, no, you said that when I was on your campus, and that was before you knew shit. So that was the first thing with this conversation that we were having. And I don't remember how this had come about, but this literally, like, this broke me. And I'm kind of just, like, at the point where I'm literally just, I don't care anymore. And she doesn't care, so why should I care? Um, so I don't know. We were like asking, like I don't know, like we were talking about. I don't even know what we were talking about at this point. But I had, because I know my ex very well, and I picked up on that she had hooked up with someone, and by the way she was talking, and I said to her, I was like, don't lie to me. Like, tell me the truth. Like, what happened with you and this one guy? and it took her for like a really long time to tell me. I was like, just be honest with me and tell me what had happened. And basically, to make a long story short, she hooked up with this one guy, gave him oral. Uh, they were like half naked together in bed. And what bothered me when she was telling me this lovely story was that she thought it was funny. She thought that it was a joke. She was laughing about it. She was like, oh, his skin was so soft. Oh my God, yeah, this and that. Oh, he was such a sweet guy. He was so gentle. And it was like she didn't even care. And at one point, I was like, just stop telling the story. She was like, no, you wanted this full story. I'm going to tell you everything. I'm like, I don't even care anymore. And the fact that she literally like thought it was okay. And then when she was like, when I was saying to her, just tell me what happened, she was like, no, because, I don't want to lose you forever. And then after when like, you know, she told me everything, she basically like, because I was like, you do realize that like I just don't want anything to do with you anymore. And she was like, whatever, I don't give a shit. And she was just kind of like, that's it. um and I was just like, you know what, fuck this. I am literally getting myself sick over all of this. And what also is interesting is that with my ex, she flip flops a lot. She flip flops all the time with her emotions. She'll say one thing 1 minute and then another thing the next. So after this whole conversation, when we had hung up, she texts me and she says to me, it wasn't anything serious. I was vulnerable and felt like no one else could be into me. And then it happened. I'm sorry. I didn't even text her back at that point because I'm literally, I can't deal with this anymore. Like, you hook up with other guys and then you say like, oh yeah, no one else is into me, let alone 3 other guys have been like talking to you. That's complete bullshit to me. And I don't care if my ex sees this video, because you know what? Like, here's what's gonna happen if my ex sees this video. One, she's either gonna be like, wow, way to go, you literally just posted a video of like us or whatever, exposing me, whatever. Two, she's literally gonna deny shit. Or three, she just won't respond at all. Um, I really think that my ex, she has no remorse at all for what she has done. And she literally threw 4 years down the toilet like it was nothing. She says to me one day, oh yeah, I love you. And then 3 days later, says, fuck you, leave me alone. And then she's hooking up with some other guy half naked in his bed, giving him head. Fuck that. And you know what? Honestly, she says that I have a bad personality. And I'm just literally like, you know what? I put her in front of so many things in my life, and I know I fucked up. Believe me, I know that I fucked up. But I just cannot take this anymore. And I wanted to make this video basically explaining my story and how you guys can get through it if you guys are experiencing anything like this. Do not walk out the victim. Walk out the victor. Every relationship is different. Unfortunately, this relationship ended horribly. And, like some relationships, they're going to end actually on good terms. And, like that's good. And, some relationships only last a couple months, but sometimes it is best to just, the best way to put it is just walk away. I know it's not easy. Believe me, this whole thing was not easy for me, and I I got sick over this. I mean, I'm not gonna blame her for all of like what's been going on with me, like with school and whatnot. I'm not gonna blame her for that, but I I got sick over all of this because it literally it killed me. And the fact that literally she says to me like, "Oh yeah, I love you," then why are you like doing this shit with other guys? Like they almost had sex. And when she was telling me this, she was saying like, "Oh, just swear to me that you won't tell anyone this." And at this point, like I was like, "Yeah, swear, whatever." But I was just like, you know what? I have to tell this story because I want people to benefit from this, because I'm not doing this to necessarily expose her, but this stuff like this could literally kill you. It almost killed me, and like I'm done with all of this. Like I literally feel like she just didn't even love me, or like at this point she was just like she didn't love me as much like as she claims she did. And she's not sorry. If I know my ex, she's not sorry for anything, but um there's not really much I can say about it. Like she's gonna have to learn the hard way that in life, you can't always go around playing the victim and having people feel sorry for you. And that's why I'm making this video. I don't want sympathy. I don't want sympathy at all from anyone here, like watching this video. Take this video and, like just when you're watching it, like use this as a lesson, because it's breakups in general are hard. They're never easy. But it's all about like pretty much like what goes down. And yeah, and I it just bothers me that like that had happened. But you know what, it is what it is. I'm not gonna let this shit kill me like how it was before, because that that surprised me. And I thought I knew this girl. I really did. And it's funny because I think it was yet like 2 days ago rather. I was in my mom's car and we were listening to the radio. And my mom and I are huge fans of the Beatles. And all of a sudden, this one song by the Beatles came on called "I'm Looking Through You." And it just fits so perfectly for you guys that actually know that song. Like you know what I'm talking about. But it's basically a song about when you look at that person that you thought that you knew, and you're pretty much looking through them, like you don't know them anymore. And my ex, literally, this is exactly why I have trust issues. There's not much to really say about it anymore. I really am just, like I said, I don't want sympathy. I want people to benefit from this. That's why I'm talking about this. I wouldn't usually just, like talk about like my relationship and like the shit that went down, but I want to put this out there for people to literally just relate to. And like if you guys ever need anything, if you ever need somebody to talk to, especially when it comes to advice like this or just anything in general, please don't be afraid to just message me or anything, because like I said earlier, depression and stress and anxiety can fucking kill you. And that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys, like, if you guys are still watching this, I mean, this video is like I think over an hour long, but I mean, yeah. So, all right, peace out, guys.